He's the most famous progressive filmmaker on earth. He's the bête noire of the American right. He is, of course, Michael Moore, and his previous films have tackled everything from the disaster of the Iraq War to gun control in the United States. But his new film, Where to Invade Next, is looking at ideas across the world to make a more just, fair society. So I want to talk to him about issues ranging from Donald Trump to Brexit to Bernie Sanders, and I think this will be a very interesting conversation.
Just explain Brexit to me, basically. Basically, right now, the UK is in the Premier League. Rarely does a team that's in the Premier League ask to be put down into the minors, right?
Yeah, I like this.
So why would you leave the Premier League if you have an honored spot? In fact, so honored that they let you have your own money. You know, it'd be like the Premier League saying to Tottenham, "Okay, we want you to stay in the Premier League, so we're gonna let you use a purple ball," right? It's like, why would you want to leave the Premier League and go down into the minors?
But the Brexiteers say, we'll make Britain great again, you know, rule Britannia, all that kind of thing.
Okay.
Britain stands alone.
When you start to sound like Trump, do you know how crazy that sounds? Trump's crazy enough sounding like an American, but when a Brit, in this case, a significant portion of the British public is trying to mimic Donald Trump, you know, immigrants. You know, you can't build a wall because you're an island. His effect, I haven't met here in a while. So the drive-in from Heathrow last night was, how shall I say, impressive. Something happened, money came here, and money started ruling the day.
It went in some people's pockets, but not others.
Well, of course, that's the way it works. In Trumponomics, you know, it's set up so that the few benefit at the expense of the many. How do you get the public to get behind giving the rich, the 1%, more money, when it's going to cost them the 99% that money? How do you get them to vote for that? Well, you get them confused and distracted by the other. It's these immigrants that are causing these problems. It's Europe, Brussels. Brussels is taking our money.
Let's talk about Trump. I found this, you know, because here people have been watching with at first it was kind of a joke, hilarious.
It was performance art.
And
right?
and it stopped being a joke at some point.
It stopped being a joke.
Is he the next president of the United States?
Well, let me hear you. Let me try practicing those words. President Trump. Say it out loud.
President Donald Trump.
That's
a real
not
risk?
a joke. Of course, it's a very real possibility that he could be the next president of the United States.
If he became president, what would happen to the United States?
First of all, many will try to move to Canada. That's why I predict the Canadians are going to start strengthening their immigration laws. They're not
People fleeing across the border.
Fleeing across the border to Canada. Bring a coat! It won't be the same America 4 years later if Trump's the president. It's a very scary thing. Hillary's right to remind people you don't want his finger on the button. You don't want him to have the nuclear codes. You don't want any of this stuff. The guy is completely out to lunch.
Is this what we're dealing with? Do you think it's fascism?
It's 21st century fascism, absolutely, because the definition of fascism is when you combine state power with the power of business and capital, and you use the special ingredient of racism and fear of the outsider, fear of the other, fear of the Mexican, the Muslim. In Trump's case, fear of women. That is the one thing that may bring him down. That may be why he doesn't win, is because he has pissed off the majority gender.
Because he's a misogynist.
Because yes, that's a kind way to put it. I didn't realize, I know that like guys, angry white guys, women are a pain in the ass. You know, women, we don't want them running the show. It's not just that. It's a hatred. It's a hatred of women. To win the election, he's going to have to hope that a lot of people stay home. And women have an added motivation to vote this time, and we could have our first female president.
With Trump, though, I mean, there's Trump himself, and then there's his followers. And a lot of his followers are working class Americans whose lives have become more and more hard and insecure, not least because of the legacy of Reaganomics. Why are they going in that direction, those followers? How have people with progressive politics of social justice, how have they failed to win those people over in that way?
I can tell you that's a very easy answer because I just experienced it with Flint and the water crisis in Flint. President Obama completely put the knife in Flint's back and has done nothing to fix that problem there. And people in Flint are just stunned at his refusal to fix a problem that he didn't create. But he's there to defend the people of Flint against the Republican governor who created this problem of poisoning, the people of Flint. to save some money. He allowed the people to be poisoned. People are correctly suspicious of liberals because liberals have failed them. You know, there was the promise of Obamacare. We have this great law. It does a lot of great things, but it's not universal health care. And so now people know what it really is, and it's not what it was exactly cracked up to be. Let me tell you how Trump's going to win. He'll carry all the traditional red states from Idaho to Georgia. All right, they're never voting for the Democrat, and they're certainly not voting for a woman. All he has to do then is win 4 what we call Rust Belt states. Trump is in agreement with many of us from those states. He is opposed to NAFTA. He is opposed to TPP, the Pacific Agreement. He's told Ford, if you move that factory from Detroit to Mexico, I'm going to put a tariff on your cars so that you're not going to be able to sell them. Man, that is music to the ears of a population that has had the shit kicked out of it for decades now.
Bernie Sanders, now, he is a septuagenarian, Jewish, self-described socialist. How has this happened?
Young people. Young people didn't grow up in the Cold War, weren't badgered with this whole thing that commies and socialism and all this is some evil. You know, and these are 20-year-olds, remember, that are raised by my generation. And one of the good things we did do is we raised a generation of kids that don't hate. By and large, the vast majority of young people are not haters. They don't hate you because of the color of your skin. They don't hate you if you're in love with somebody of your gender.
There's a huge gap now, isn't there, between attitudes of the younger Americans
Yes.
and the older Americans?
If you voted for Ronald Reagan in 1980, and at that time you were 50 or older, you're dead now.
That's true.
So, I mean, not all, but
Not
generally,
all.
but by average. So, in other words, the people that created the era that we're still in, this Reaganomics era, are gone.
And Trump is the last hurrah, maybe.
It is the last hurrah. I liken the sound of Trump to whatever the sound of the dying dinosaur must have been. As the dinosaurs were finally dying off, you know. Build a wall! Build a wall! 19% of America is now white men over the age of 35. That's it, 19%. It's over. All right? We've been running the show for a few hundred years, and now it's time for women and people of color to run the show. They're going to do a better job of it. They already are doing a better job of it in other countries.
Bernie Sanders, though, do you think it's time for him to go, I've done a cracking job, this huge phenomenon?
Oh, no, we need him now more than ever.
So he shouldn't drop out?
Absolutely not. He's definitely going to the convention because we have all these issues we're concerned about. He has pushed Hillary further to the left. We need to keep pushing. And the platform of the convention, all these things are very important. And I think people will see that he's been a force for good.
Obviously, in a choice between Clinton and Trump, there's the obvious same choice. But is it not true that Hillary Clinton is just another corporate machine politician who defends the status quo?
That is correct. Yes.
That was a very simple answer.
Yeah,
so
well,
isn't that the danger?
yes.
That
It is a danger.
Because the anger and the resentment that Trump is feeding on, you know, partly it's because of the sorts of policies, those free trade agreements that she's... So won't it make it worse?
And that is why Trump may win. That is why every poll shows Bernie Sanders beating Trump by a greater percentage than Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton and Trump, if you look at the polls, are very close. In a couple polls, they're tied. It's a scary thought to think that he could pull this off.
Obama, out of 10. How many marks?
From where? 1 to 10?
1 to 10.
I give him a 7 or an 8.
Oh, wow. That's quite generous.
But those last few points, I have some serious criticisms of him in terms of what he's done. But oh my God, compared to what we came out of 8 years of George W. Bush, Obama, on a scale of 1 to 10, is like 37. It's been hard for him. It's kind of like Bush created this entire mess, geopolitically, economically, and it's like, okay, send the black guy in now to sweep up the mess. Great. That's some job. He was willing to take the job.
Partly looking in terms of your film, this brilliant film, by the way. I'll be accused of brown-nosing now, but it's true, it's a great film. But what's interesting about the United States is because you went to all these different countries to invade, take their ideas home, but you actually said, these are very American ideas, there's a great American tradition. But why is it? What is it about the United States that it doesn't have the sort of welfare state, the social security, the public healthcare systems?
You structure yourselves around the concept of we. That we're all in the same boat. That if too many of our people get sick and they can't see a doctor, that's bad for all of us. If too many of our people have guns, that's bad for all of us. If too many, so you enact laws that are based on the concept of what's best for the society. We enact laws that's based on let everybody do what they want to do, pretty much. I get sick, that's my problem. You get sick, that's your problem.
Danny DeVito came out as a very surprising supporter of the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, which was probably the most surreal thing I've seen in my entire life. Do you have any thoughts, Jeremy Corbyn? Have you followed him? Do you know what he is?
Absolutely. The fact that we have a Democratic Socialist running for president, and he today has 46% of the pledged delegates, 46%, a Democratic Socialist, and that your Labour Party has elected as their leader a Democratic Socialist, that these are parallel things that are happening, I think this is a good sign. It is wonderful to see an act of penance, redemption, atonement for the sins of Labour and Tony Blair. Because I hold Blair more responsible for the Iraq War than I do George W. Bush.
Blimey.
Yeah.
Wow. Why?
Yeah. Because I expected that of George W. Bush.
Yeah.
That wasn't a surprise. All right. But Bush only got away with it because he had the cover of Tony Blair, because he had the cover of liberals, the liberal New York Times, the liberal New Yorker magazine, the liberal Tony Blair.
Who said that Britain had to pay a blood price for its special relationship. That's what he suggested.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of blood.
There's a lot of blood. Blood here, blood in America, and blood upon blood in the Middle East.
Are you hopeful about the future? Are the good guys, if you like, going to win? Are we going to build a more just, equal society, or are we heading ever more to a society running the interests of the people at the top?
We've been creating a better society. We've been creating a better world. The lesson of history is that the good guys eventually do win. Sometimes it takes a while, but evil loses. Sometimes we're 2 steps forward, then 1 step back. But no, I'm very optimistic about this, mainly because the future is in the hands of people under the age of 40. And that generation, your generation, is going to fix this. No
pressure.
No pressure intended. In fact, I'm grateful. You should be more mad at us. You're not mad at your parents the way we were mad at ours for the world we inherited. You guys actually kind of like us, which thanks. But you've been left with a warmer planet, with an infrastructure of the Middle East that's been torn apart by the policies of the U.S. and the U.K. And so there's some big problems here to fix. But I think that there's love in your hearts. We did the best we could. We could have done better. You'll make it better. That's the lesson of history. And stay in Europe.
Hope will win. Cheers, Michael. That was a pleasure.
All right.
Well, I think that dinosaur impression was pretty legendary, as was, of course, the whole interview. What a gentleman. And do you know what? I feel a bit more full of hope. And, that is kind of one of the main points of this whole channel. So really fascinating stuff about both the United States and also about Britain. And we've got loads more interviews to come. We've got all these interviews here. Do click on them. Leave your comments. Love to hear what you think. Subscribe. And as ever, I will see you next time.